Have you ever told a joke at a job interview? How did it go down? Printed my resume accidentally on cardstock. Thought it was resume paper. Interviewer, while turning it around in his hands. Wow, this is some thick paper. I said. Makes it harder to crumple up. He laughed. I got the job. I was being interviewed for a sales position at a floor covering company. My dad had been in the industry for years and had a loose acquaintance with the individual who was interviewing me. At the end of the interview, I told him that my dad told me everything I needed to know about carpet just before the interview. He said, "Oh yeah, what was that?"
My response,
fuzzy side up.
He called later that day and offered me the job.
The hiring manager interviewing me said, "The job is great most days, but there are the days where you will want to pull your hair out." He was bald, so I said, "That must have happened to you already." He had a great sense of humor, so him and the trainee manager sitting in on the interview laughed. And he told me at the end of the interview my personality and credentials were exactly what they were looking for. I got the job and left after 3 months because it really did make me want to pull my hair out. Interviewer asked me, "Are you gonna be a pain in the ass or someone I won't have to worry about?" I replied, "Probably both," and was offered the job shortly after. I worked at a middle school for a decade. The high school we fed was right across the parking lot. My wife worked there as the Spanish teacher. So when a position came up there, I thought, why not? I interviewed. They all knew me. They knew my wife. So when, at the end of the interview, they asked me if I had any questions, I asked,
"Yeah. Does that cute Spanish teacher still work here?"
Quote. Principal laughed. Assistant principal laughed. Central office person freaked out. I didn't get the job and I can't help but think that was the reason.
I was qualified.
They liked me and my wife. I explained that my wife was the Spanish teacher, but I think the central office person was singularly humorless and didn't like it. No big loss. In 1994 I interviewed for a position with Nations Bank, now Bank of America. The bank was headquartered in North Carolina and had taken over 2 large Texas banks. The person interviewing me was from HQ and explained that he'd be my immediate supervisor. Later, when he asked me what I was looking for in a job company, I gave the usual canned response and added at the end, "and if possible a manager who lives in a different time zone." It was a trite joke, but he loved it. I got the job. They asked me to tell him a joke. Ice cream parlor. On the spot. The only thing that came to my head was, why do gorillas have large nostrils? Because they have such big fingers. They looked at me in awkward silence and I told him I didn't want the job anyway. My cousin went to a church because he was trying to become some position at the church. Pastor. Altar boy, or ultimately a priest, I assume. Essentially, he told the joke, "And the Lord said unto John, Come forth and receive eternal life. But John came fifth and won a toaster." From his words, the priest laughed his ass off. I was surprised he had never heard that joke before. My mom worked with a Korean lady named So Young. When she was interviewing for the job, my mom's older boss asked her how she said her name. She said, "I am so young, like you are so old." It landed her the job instantly. When asked what your weaknesses, I said, "I'm terrible at interviews." I got the job. At the end of an interview I did in college for an internship. The 3 interviewers said they asked the interviewee at the end to either sing a song or tell a joke. I opted for telling a joke. I told my favorite, cleanest joke ever. Why does a chicken coop have 2 doors? Because if it had 4 doors, it would be a chicken sedan. Asterisk. Anyway, the internship involved working with kids and I think they wanted to see how quickly we could entertain a child without any planning really. They loved the clean joke and I followed up with, I think it's important to memorize 5 clean jokes
that you can tell to any audience, and proceeded to tell 4 more clean jokes.
I got the internship. *edited because I can't spell very well. I was the interviewer in this case.
And the interviewee was doing well.
He had the right skills. He seemed smart and friendly enough. I was thinking he could be a possible hire.
If I thought a candidate was good,
I'd ask the CTO to speak with him right after me. It was a small web company with less than 75 employees. I managed the software QA team. The CTO came to my office after talking with the candidate and he had a very puzzled look on his face. I really don't know how to respond to what just happened, he said. I was a bit confused because I thought the candidate had been doing well. It turns out, when the CTO asked the candidate to tell him a little about himself, the candidate started with, I was born a poor black child. The candidate was not black. Some of you, like me, may recognize that as a line from the hilarious Steve Martin movie, The Jerk. The CTO was not familiar with the movie and didn't know the candidate was even quoting a movie. And that was that. No way the CTO would have approved hiring the candidate after that.
I had an interview that I was already bombing.
Then they asked how I do under pressure. I responded with, not well apparently. Didn't get it. I was interviewing for a dispatch position where I have to talk to gas technicians. Interviewer was saying, the techs can be highly stressed in the field. Some of them can get rude and unpleasant on the phones at times. They can be quite unpolitically correct.
Are you able to handle people like that?
Quote, me, oh so just another conversation with my parents. That's no problem for me. I suppose she wasn't expecting that answer and burst out laughing. I ended up getting the job. I'm still there now. But now I'm part of the recruitment team so I get to see the other side. I work for a series of plant biology research labs in reception. And the interview process was horrifically dull. We were all cramped in a tiny room because they had overbooked the conference rooms. ANS didn't have a proper space to interview me. So it was comically cramped as 4 of us sat around a small coffee table. They asked me if I had ever couriered biological materials. My reply was, not my own, but I assume there is a form for that. They all laughed. Thank God. A few moments went by while they made notes and the next question was, sometimes we receive live bees in the mail. Are you comfortable with receiving that? And my unfiltered response was, oh, like a revenge thing? Or is it for pollination? And they really liked that response. Needless to say, I was hired within an hour.